Okay, well, I'm joined with Tim Chase again. We done a episode before on food cravings and how to overcome them, and now we've thought of another one, and that is it's quite relevant actually to the current situation and when things open up. But we had a discussion of there's tends to be four types of training which we all seem to be needing to do. Now, in these four styles of training, there's lots of different ones within it. So we're going to have a little chat of what we currently do with this. So I think it's best to start from the top, and that is cardio and endurance.
Oh, I don't know if that's the top. Start from. Well, some people love it, some hate it, but I suppose it's most relevant right now, isn't it? In lockdown.
Yeah, yeah. What do you do? Do you tend to go for walks?
Yeah. So unfortunately, I've ended up having to just go for walks, and I've got a bike as well in the living room. The reason I say unfortunately is because I would love to do other forms of cardio, but my
Yeah.
body doesn't love it as much as me. So I did try skipping and running and all these different other things that I thought, oh, that'd be fun, forgetting that I'm not quite the same as I was when I was 16. So
Mm.
there's every time I go for a run or a skipping, I'll pick up a little niggle. And so, yeah, I tend to just keep it to, a nice leisurely walk or some intervals on the bike.
Yeah, yeah. I will go for a walk most days. And at the moment, I've taken on a challenge, and it's all for charity. And that is the crazy, let's see if I can get this title right. The Crazy Crunch Squat Run Challenge. Bit of a mouthful. But basically what you do
I think I'll get
is
it.
you do so many squats, so many crunches, sit-ups, and then you go for a jog. So the relevant bit is I'm up to 2K over 4 days. So just a simple 4K. It's from here to the garage and back. So I do that. I do my walking, and I tend to reach around about 10,000 steps with that. And then also, I'm doing HIIT training because I do an online HIIT
Yeah,
class.
you do.
Yeah, so I've ended up doing that with them as well. What's funny is I started out in the first lockdown, which has been March last year. And at the beginning, the first 10 weeks, I did it with them. But then I found myself losing too much weight because from the first lockdown, it was that uncertainty about, you had to budget. So I weren't eating enough and I was
Oh,
doing so
yeah.
much HIIT, the weight was flying off me. So over the time, because I've kept it going ever since then, but I started just demonstrating the exercises and not doing
Yeah,
it with them.
yeah.
And over these last 12 weeks, I started doing it again. But I think it's benefited me more this time because I've added some more weight. Like I use kettlebell, which is a 16 kilogram. And I've been doing dumbbells, which goes up to 20 kilogram on each side. So I can just change the plates. So I think this time around with the HIIT, I think we've got it better due to the fact of eating more and the type of HIIT training I'm doing with that.
Yeah, I think everyone else will be in the same boat for different reasons. Because when it was sunny in the first lockdown, all I did was walk. I was going for 2-3 hour walks a day. So
Yeah,
25,000 steps a day. 'Cause it was so nice outside. You go out at like 7, 8 p.m. The last 4 or 5 weeks have just been so awful to go out that you're like, oh, I'll just do 15, 20 minutes.
yeah, exactly. And hopefully, obviously, it's going to start. It's a nice day today. It's still a little bit fresh, but this is the day where people going to be more motivated to get out for a walk, aren't they?
Yeah, the thing that saved me is every morning, without fail, I just jump on my bike for 20 minutes. Just watch TV, 20 minutes on the bike, and it's just set my day up right every time. And it's just been
Mm.
that little change that I made from the other lockdowns just to get back into that routine.
Yeah, and that's helped a lot with your weight, is it, to keep the weight off?
Uh, well, my weight's fluctuating, but I'm doing it more from a fitness point of view. I think
Mm.
going for a walk's great, and I'm doing some days I'm doing like 15,000 steps, but it's not. I just want to get something that gets me a little bit out of breath.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
conscious now that I'm getting, you know, getting a little bit older now. It's something that I used to, play sport all the time, and I think you forget how little you do as you get older versus when you were younger. I used to walk to school for an hour back each day. Do PE, do after school clubs,
yeah,
play football on the weekend for fun. And then when you think, what do you do now? You suddenly go, oh, I've done a walk to the shop. That's good.
yeah. I could really tell my resting heart rate before I started doing the HIIT training and bringing that back in, because I wouldn't really see my resting heart rate drop below 60.
Okay.
It was only when I'd be completely resting as in looking at my watch in the
Yeah.
morning, and you know how you can sort of monitor how low your heart rate goes. It was only going as low as maybe sort of 50, 55. But now I could be sitting down and it'll go below 60.
Yeah,
So,
mine's been high. I remember doing a test at Nuffield Health. They do that body MOT, and I was embarrassed with how high my resting heart rate was. And I think it's because all my life it was so low that
yeah,
I'm a fit, healthy person. And then at what point do you suddenly realise, oh, I've actually lost that status as being a fit, healthy person? Where did it go?
yeah, definitely. Well, it leads on nicely to number two. And like I said, I'm putting this, but there's no particular order with this. These are all as important as each other. But the next one is strength training. And obviously, there's lots of different styles, isn't there? But what are you currently doing with your strength training?
I mean, this one's very difficult right now with lockdown. Very, very difficult.
Yeah,
The cardio one's easy. It's obviously easier in
yeah,
at the moment, but strength training. It's just I've done a lot of videos on this, and it's mainly being clever with what you've got access to. So, you haven't really got access to heavy weight, and if you have, you're probably going to put it through your floor.
yeah,
I live at my parents' house, so they're not a big fan of that. So I've been using, up to sort of, I've got like a set of 10 kilo dumbbells, and I've got weight on a little, body pump bar that goes up to about, I think it's like high 30s, 40 maybe.
yeah,
And that's all I've got to work with. But when I bring into play changing my tempo,
yeah,
bringing things like supersets, trisets, looking at sort of static holds, pre-exhaustion techniques, that's been the thing for me that's really worked. It's all about that sort of mind to muscle now, rather than
yeah.
weight can I shift for X amount of reps.
Yeah, I think that is all you can do really when you've got a limited amount of equipment in the house. And like you said there, you could buy more, but you've got to consider how's the household going to cope with it. If you've got a massive Olympic bar, where are you going to put that for a start? And is it going to be very good for your floor? So whilst that's a great bit of equipment, it's something which only really is for a gym environment or maybe a garage or something.
Yeah, I haven't got that luxury. I don't know about you, but I've had to make most of, a simple thing like pre-exhausting. So you're going to do, you normally do like a heavy chest press, for example.
Yeah,
Like to pre-exhaust that muscle, whether it is with some sort of like cross-body front raise to really
yeah,
pre-exhaust the chest, or a banded fly. But again, not just doing a banded fly as you normally would with cables, really focusing on, squeezing at the top for 3, 4, 5 seconds, controlling the way down,
yeah,
everything under tension. And then when I get to my press, I'm already
yeah.
like pre-fatigued, so I don't need as much weight.
It's pretty amazing how much difference the tempo and that time and attention makes to that muscle, isn't it? How much just feeling the muscle that you want to feel and having it nice and controlled. And that's how you can do it. And obviously you can manipulate how hard you work on it with where you position your body, particularly when you do your legs, for example.
Yeah, it's definitely something I think if people have been focusing on it, it's going to really help them when they go back into the gym.
Mm,
It's mind to muscle for me is a massive one, because the amount of years I trained for, and let's use bench for example again, I just push the weight from A to B, but I'm, almost like slingshotting it back up. There's not
yeah,
a lot of effort on a focus on what I'm actually meant to be working here. The
yeah, yeah.
focus is purely on weight A to B, whereas now the focus is on how can I make this as hard as possible.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what's really interesting with that is in the past, and we've all fell into this when we've been younger, we've sort of thought that, if you just bomb up as much weight as possible, that's the way to go. The trouble is when you do use that technique of feeling and that what muscle you want to hit, 9 times out of 10, you probably couldn't lift quite as heavy as what you think.
Yeah, 100%. It's having to drop that weight right down. It's going to be hard for when people return to the gym, having to reduce that weight anyway after having access to that equipment. But maybe take a bit of pride in it to think, right, I'm going to forget what I used to lift and let me just strip it all the way back and perfect that technique and build it back up.
Yeah, definitely. And I'd find this is the area where I've been less disciplined on this particular lockdown. I've been a lot more sort of on ad hoc. Like the last one, I was like doing it 3 times a week. The time before that, I think I was doing it body parts. With this time, I can even tell you exactly how many times I've been doing it. I've just kind of known I've had to do it. So I've just chucked it in and I've just went, okay, today I'm going to do a whole body approach workout. So this time around, I reckon I've had my mind more focused on the endurance, cardio, strength
Yeah,
side rather than just solid strength.
it is weird how your mind changes goals. Because last summer, I really wanted to get into fitness, and you started doing those. Was it those 5K runs? 5 for 5 was it? I can't think exactly what it was. Was it the charity runs? You donate £5 or something.
Yeah.
Um, and I was like, right, I ran my first 5K, and I thought, right, that's it. Sign me up for the marathon. You know what I mean? Here we go. And I get like that with a lot of things, and my mind was right. Like, let me lose a few pounds. Let me get fitter and healthier for life, and let me start really getting back in action with my health. And then as soon as you get a few cold days and you pick up a little niggle, you're like, oh, actually, I
Yeah.
just want to get bigger again. And it's weird
Yeah.
how that focus can shift.
Yeah, definitely. Especially when it comes down to getting the niggles, because then that's when the doubts start coming in, doesn't it? You lose that sort of gain in your mind of, oh, the gains are feeling fitter, being more agile and all that. If you're starting to get little niggles, the other conscious comes in and goes, oh, well, maybe this isn't the best for you.
Mm.
Maybe you should do what you did before. You got better results that way because you never had these niggles. So it's amazing how these can creep in.
Yeah, and the excuses, that's been a massive one. I know it's very hard for people right now. And people will look at me and you go, oh, it's easy for you because
Mm.
I don't know, you're an expert in it, or you've got access to X amount of kit, or whatever it may be, more time, but it's just as hard.
Yeah.
Just as hard. Probably you've had the same as me, so many days where you think, oh, I can't be bothered to do this. I don't want to do this. It's all right for someone else because they haven't got an injury, but everyone's working through so
Mm.
many issues and problems and injuries that they just don't talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. Leads on to the third point, actually, which is these next two are the ones which I feel are the key factors what everyone really needs to bring in, which is probably harder to bring in. So I'm going to bring in number 3, and that is about doing exercises which gives you that balance, that overall stability. I'll call this patterns of movement, for example. So like the importance of balancing on one leg, or doing types of exercises which balance each part. So like the piston squat, for example. Do you do much exercises like that?
No, absolutely none. I'll be brutally honest. And it's something that I would always randomly think, oh, I need to start doing that again. And then I'll go one session, let's say back in the gym, I'll do one session of like a single leg press and I try and do a piston squat, obviously holding a weight because my balance is awful. And then it's funny how that you forget about it a week later.
Mm, yeah, yeah. I mean, remember the whole craze with the Swiss balls when everyone used to use that to improve your core and all that.
Was it the Bosu balls, you mean?
Yeah, well, they're the Bosu ones, which are
Yeah,
the
hard.
there was that one, but there was the big ball, wasn't there, which we
Yeah.
call them Swiss balls, fit balls.
Yeah, the exercise balls.
And yeah, and they were like that was a big thing around about, I think that must have been about, could be even 10 years ago now.
It was about
Everyone
10
was,
years,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and that really did work on the core and the balance side of fitness, and it was a big craze at the time. And you got to the point where people was like standing on the ball like this.
Yeah.
You get some people who are like proper gurus in the gym and they'd be balanced in the middle of the gym, and some people would be thinking, "Oh, look at this kid," you know what I mean?
I
But
tried.
some people are quite inspired.
I always tried it, trying to squat on a Swiss ball. And if you stood on the side, with your feet pointing in, you could almost do it because you knew if you dropped, you'd land on the floor.
Yeah,
The amount of people I saw trying to squat on a Swiss ball and basically do like a 360 flip. You know,
yeah. I think what's amazing about stuff like that, and I don't know if you found this, but with the Bosu ball. So when you first stood on the Bosu ball, and I remember when I first did this, I had to really think about it and like make sure I'm not squeezing my toes, and I was really shaky. And then what's mad, you really practice on it, and then all of a sudden it feels like nothing.
mm-hmm.
And you see someone else trying it, and you just think, wow, I remember when I used to be like that. And I guess that's what we used to be like I can't even remember, but when we're a child,
Yeah.
trying to learn how to walk. And now obviously we just walk without not even thinking about it.
Yeah, I don't know what your views are then, because I'm still been 50-50 on this. I go backwards and forwards. I never forget when I used to work at Fitness First, we're talking like 15 years ago, and I went to one of those seminar days, and we were quite spoilt, really. We had Charles Poliquin spoke. I don't think he's with us anymore, is he? So he spoke, and it was about how to get bigger, how to get absolutely massive through lifting heavy weights and basically don't F around, just get it done. Straight after him was Peter Twist, who the Twist Academy guys, the one who trained all like the American ice hockey players, and he was all about it was all everything on a Bosu, everything on a Swiss ball, everything on one leg. So he
Mm.
had these cool exercises, he'd balancing on one leg, jumping around with elastic bands tied behind you. You'd be jumping from a Bosu onto a ledge with a band behind you, holding a plate above your head, and it looked so cool. But
Yeah.
the two were so extreme from each other.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
sitting there going, I don't know which one. I just don't know which camp I was more in.
Mm.
Um, and the older I've got, and the more I've got into it, I can see the benefit to the balance side of things. But I think there's a lot more emphasis on it than there was a lot more emphasis on it than there needed to be, because I feel
Yeah.
you're doing a lot more than you realize. Like a squat, a lunge. There's a lot of balance work in that
Yeah. Yeah.
without having to balance on an airfield sack. I mean, the only time you're ever going to do that in real life is a bouncy castle, and the whole fun of that is to not be able to stand up.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, where I do it in terms of patterns of movement or most days is either me sitting down. I would go, okay, let's just make sure my feet are straight. Try not to put one leg over the top of the other. Try not to lean forward all the time. Pull your shoulders back. I mean, either them things is a form of getting the right balance in
Yeah.
your body. So either little things like that. So we're talking about the Bosu side and Swiss balls, but that's the extreme level. But it could be
Yeah.
either as simple as basic things of making sure that you're distributing your weight right,
I think that's the way that I've gone now. So I started doing 30. I do 30 minutes of stretching a day, and for me, it's all about my spine. I mean, I'm sitting like this now because I'm on a sofa, but I've been doing a lot of work. The sort of cat cows. Where your back, where you
Yeah.
come up, and a lot of work like that through my upper back because it's so tight. And yeah, that sort of stuff. Working out how you're sitting, how you're standing, making sure I am doing loads of mobility work through my spine.
Mm.
I feel that is so much more important, than the balance work. I get the balance work if you
Yeah.
are maybe competing as a sportsman, and it is all about things like decelerating forces and sideways movements. But I don't think they need to be. You need to be too over the top clever. I mean, you look
Yeah.
at professional footballers. I don't know if you've seen that All or Nothing series where they look at Tottenham and Manchester City.
I have.
They
Yeah.
talk about just deceleration forces and acceleration forces, and that's really
Yeah.
what you train. Like you can sprint, move sideways, quick feet. Your tendons in your knees and ankles and hips and ligaments are going to respond to that movement without having to, balance on a on a
Yeah.
ball.
Yeah, it's very true. And that's right. That's one of the messages here is it just shows in life in general, people seem to gravitate towards this extreme,
Mm-hmm.
wow, this looks amazing. But on the grand scheme of things, it's about these 4 points, and it's not about being manic in one point. They're all equally important, aren't they? And it's just getting it right on each of them and having it that it serves you in your life. Like you said in
Yeah,
football, I guess they needed to do all that because that serves them with what they're doing in football. But reality is, if we took that into everyday life, we're not. What use is that? It's not going to be any use, really.
exactly. And I've been thinking more about how this all fits together in, when I've been doing my programming recently with, the things like the app. And for me, the things like the balance work and the posture work, yes, it's a daily thing, and it's trying to get in that, just saying to clients, get in 5 minutes a day of stretching, putting it straight after your walk or your workout. That's going to really start to help, and you're going to start to feel, the areas you're tight and be more conscious about it. So we're making progress in the right directions. But when it comes to mobility, balance, just add on a couple of exercises at the end. So, towards the end of a leg workout, then we might start putting in like maybe walking lunges or Bulgarian split squats or whatever exercise is slightly more challenging. Either tap it on the end or the start,
Yeah,
so that
yeah.
you're giving a little bit of extra stimulus in between those sort of big bog standard movements like a leg
That
press or a
that makes
squat.
complete sense. Yeah, and therefore you're sort of making sure you're staying agile with them patterns and movements.
Yeah, well, something I've been doing with my home clients as well, and something I've got when the gym's open is I've just got like almost like a little 10-minute metcon at the end of a couple of sessions.
Yeah,
And it's getting someone, the old fashioned, just a little line on the floor, an invisible line, and it's just jumping your feet over it, 30
yeah,
seconds, or, both feet over together, and straight into star jumps or little jump squats, and, sort of doing a minute of that and then a minute rest and doing that for 10 minutes. It's not really hit, but, it's a cardio conditioning workout where we are
yeah.
changing movement patterns, and it's kind of interesting as well. It's fun, but it's ticking boxes really when it comes to
I
general
think
fit.
that's where you've nailed it. There is obviously what they're doing. Is it to a certain degree interesting and fun, and is it easy enough for them to put it in their lifestyle?
Yeah, that's the thing that I don't know about you, but I give clients really easy exercises when it comes to, I call it Metcon. So I'd call it metabolic conditioning, because
Yeah,
HIIT for me, I really see it as, all out on a
yeah,
bike or a machine about to fall off. So things like step ups and, mountain climbers, they're the kind of level I give someone,
yeah, yeah,
these kind of metabolic conditioning, and maybe throw in something, like I said, something a little bit more challenging.
yeah, yeah,
Um, they're quite hard to demonstrate, but something a
yeah,
bit more challenging. Uh,
definitely,
amongst that to test the core. I could put in a pistol squat maybe, but that might be something that I'd throw into a Metcon or at the end of a workout.
definitely. Yeah, it makes sense. And that goes on to really nicely number 4. And again, this is where these two cross over really, but this one's stretching and flexibility, improving these elements. So obviously I'll do a Pilates Monday mornings. I'll do that with my group, but I'll do that for me as well. And I'll do that obviously to improve the balance side, but also I do that to help my flexibility. So I'll do some PNF stretches, which, just make sure I can pronounce this right, proprioceptive neurofilatation. That's when I don't know if you understand this side of it, but it's when you trick the muscle spindle to get that stretch that little bit further, isn't it?
Yeah, I used to be obsessed with PNF. Yeah, where you push against it, then you relax, you go a little bit further. Um, it's crazy when you've done it. When I've done it with people, you get them to breathe out, and then you push that a bit further.
Yeah.
Um, it is crazy. I don't know quite how much these different styles of stretching help, but for the general population, including myself, I put myself in that population when it comes to stretching. It's just, I've been preaching this for a while now. It's just do anything. So
Yeah. Yeah.
one of the guys I know who's really hot on mobility, he just calls it rolling around on the floor. And literally, it is. That's kind of what I'm saying to people now. It's just put your leg up on on the sofa. Just
Yeah.
sit on the floor. Put your leg across. Can you feel it somewhere? Like, have a play around with PNF. Can you feel it? Yes, great. Right, hold that for a few seconds. Hold that for a minute. Obviously, don't start trying to get someone to jump on your back to snap you into position, but have a bit
Yeah.
of fun with it and start trying to feel like, oh, does that stretch where I want it to? Cool. Let me hold that.
Yeah. I always do like 6 basic stretches a day, which is easy enough to put into my lifestyle, which I know I can do. But also, if I know I'm sitting around large periods of time, I do certain stretches there as well, which is really easy to do. Again, it's that whole keeping it simple. And
Yeah.
then, yeah,
What are your 6? So for me, it was always just saying to giving people the challenge of just doing 5 minutes. 5-minute stretching. It's not too, not too strenuous. But I don't know what your 6 are. For me, it's normally been trying to get people to focus more on the front portion of the body, if that makes sense. So
yeah, yeah.
quads,
Chest stretch is one of
flexors.
them, definitely. That's up there.
Hip flexors is always my go-to
Yeah,
first, every time. Hip flexors, then I'll start almost middle out. So I normally do like a hip flexor, then maybe like a groin, a glute, a quad.
yeah. I'd stretch more. Mine would be more the hamstrings would be up there because I tend to find for me they get pretty tight out of all of them. And I think this is where it does. I always found, even when I was at school them years ago, they say you lose flexibility from the age of 10. But I always remember I was one of these children. When you sit down and cross your legs over, I always found I was still, when you was in like assembly, I don't know if you had to do this, but we never had
Oh,
chairs when I was a kid. We had to sit down with our legs
sure.
crossed. I always found that mine wasn't as flexible than others.
No, I disagree with that. I agree with you. I completely disagree with other people, because I'm more flexible now, even though I'm unflexible. Like, people say I'll touch toes, and I can do it. And they're like, well, how can you touch your toes, but you can't squat properly? I'm like, it's my hamstrings might be flexible, but my hips, my hip mobility, my ankle mobility, my upper back mobility is not there.
Mm.
And I suppose, yeah, if you, from a young age, if I'm constantly in, say, that position, I don't play computer games, and over years and years and years, obviously it's going to get tight.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Mine's adductors are pretty
yep.
tight with me, definitely. Hip flexors get very much overused, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
So they get very tight, and my hamstrings. So I'd say they're the 3 main areas for me.
So I've got a question for you about your adductors. I know you're relatively mobile, more mobile than me from what I've seen on your HIIT classes. How is your squat depth? Is it fine? Are you good with squatting?
Yes, what I try to do is if I have my feet dead straight, it goes probably about like that, like
Yep, that's
90
what I'm saying.
degrees. If I turn my toes slightly out, I can go that little bit lower.
This is the reason I asked, because so I'm the same. Feet straight forward, ankle hip mobility. I can't go. I'll fall over backwards. So then, I see someone like Jamie Alderton. He does it. He'll then turn his feet out like a frog.
Yeah.
I can then get deeper, but then the limiting factor for me is my adductors, my groin.
Ah, okay.
So if I spend ages stretching my groin, I can suddenly squat almost to the floor. So a lot of people I've been saying to, if you're struggling to squat and you want to get deeper, either obviously put something under your heels, that solves it very, very quickly, like a wedge or a book or something,
Yeah.
or just really spend time working on those adductors, because I feel that most people, they've got tight adductors because you don't tend to stretch them. Like,
No.
who ever stretches an adductor unless you're going to go and play sport?
Exactly. It's not in your pattern of movement, is it? It's not a thing where you'd think, oh, I need to stretch them. They're really tight. You only realize when you're doing certain exercises that that could be the factor. When I turn my feet, so if I make a point of always keeping my feet dead straight.
Okay.
And because then it's easier for me to make sure that, again, when we talk about that pattern of movement is right. And then, like I said, I squat down to about that 90 degrees and it looks totally fine. If I go any lower, the sort of tucking under the banana back kicks in.
The banana back. That's better than the butt wink.
Yeah. And then if I turn my feet out, like I said, I can get right down. And there's no sort of compensation on my lower back. It's dead straight, and I can get that little bit lower. And again, I don't really feel it that much in the adductors, although I wouldn't say I'm the most flexible on the adductors. That's one of them areas where I'm consciously working on it each week.
Yeah, we could do a whole podcast on squatting, I tell you.
Yeah, easily. Yeah, so there you go. I mean, they're the four types of training. And again, the reason why we felt it was important to discuss this, because not many people will kind of understand there's loads of different types. And within the types, there's loads of different styles. So we want to have a chat about it and just discuss what we're doing.
And I suppose the big confusion then is it comes down to personal preference, obviously what your goal is. So, pretty fundamental, if your goal is more cardio based goal, then you're going to do more endurance cardio work. And if your goal is more putting size on, then you're going to be more down the hypertrophy strength training route. And then it comes to that big thing about fat loss, which you could kind of take whichever route you want, I suppose. It's whichever one you're going to stick to, as long as you're not eating a stupid amount, really. So
yeah, definitely.
That'd be how I'd summarize the different paths.
Definitely, yeah. I have to say before we go, I'm liking the Chase Perfection T-shirt. It's a great colour. And what I'd like to do for anyone who wants to have these T-shirts, they fit really well. I think Tim's got an extra giant T-shirt. It fits really well.
I don't know why this large is fitting like that, but it is what it is. The greys, I don't know, grey material slightly different, but the black, white, and burgundy all fit the same.
Yeah, this one's a lovely colour.
Different fit.
Yeah. So if you want a Chase Perfection, I'll put a link into this, and I'm sure Tim would do the same.
I will. It's the brand is there somewhere, mate. It's hiding. Is that it there? Ish. There you go. Oh, it's an XL. There you go.
Yeah.
Big boy gains.
But yeah, thanks for joining us this week, and hope you'll be back next week.
Thank you very much. Cheers for having me.